Current speaker, John Bridge. The badge of shame. The badge of shame, John Bridge.
Have you ever done anything so terrible in your life that you just felt so shameful, so hurtful, and so pathetic? I have. I did such things twice, 5 years ago, and I still remember them exactly today. The difference between doing something shameful and doing something embarrassing is when you do something embarrassing, you want to conceal it and you hope no one finds out. When you do something shameful, it's almost like you're not trying to hide it, even though it's not good, because you know that it's wrong and you want to change and do something right. And you'll never forget these things. Ironically, I'm glad that I will never forget these two times, because when I look back and think back about what they were, I learned a lot from them. 5 years ago, when I was promoted to a national manager for T-Mobile USA, the telephone company, I was supposed to go out and give presentations to many of our large market offices around the United States. We had a huge project, $3 billion. And out in all of these markets, Chicago, New York, San Francisco, all of the major cities, we had offices with vice presidents and directors. And when they heard about this money in this project, they wanted to get going. I mean, right away. They didn't want to wait on anybody from corporate to come and talk about what they're going to do. But they didn't have a choice. So they had to sit and listen to my presentation. The problem was, I had no idea how nervous I was going to be speaking in front of about 100 people, executives, vice presidents, directors, and senior managers. They wanted to get going so fast in this project, I felt like I was talking to a pack of hungry tigers. They're just walking back and forth, just waiting for me to make a wrong move. Get me. I experienced 3 types of phobias at one time when I was standing up there. Glossophobia, the fear of public speaking. Panphobia, the fear of self-injury. Traumaphobia, traumatophobia, the fear of having instantaneous trauma. All 3 of these things were happening at the same time. I was so nervous and so scared standing up in front of everyone. My throat was so dry inside. I was afraid that if I swallowed a single time, I would tear some skin inside of my throat. I gave that presentation that was supposed to last 20 minutes. I think I did it in about 30 seconds. It was so bad, I didn't even try to hide how nervous I was. I was praying that the building would catch on fire, someone would call 911, and we could all run out of the building together. But that didn't happen. So I finally made it through. I sat down. I didn't even try to conceal it. I felt so terrible and so shameful. I created a little invisible badge of shame. And I pinned it right over my heart as a reminder. I wasn't going to forget how shameful I felt. So when I finally came back to Seattle, I went on the internet and I started looking for Google. Public speaking. Toastmasters. What is this Toastmasters? So I clicked on Toastmasters. I went to the international website. I put in my zip code and looked for a club. And I could not believe it. There was a Toastmasters club right there in our corporate facility, in our offices. So I went there as a guest 5 years ago, And I'm thinking, okay, we got a bunch of professional public speakers, these Toastmaster people. They're probably a little weird, actually. But I'm going to go in there and check it out. So I went into one of these Toastmaster meetings, and I sat in the back of the room, open-minded, of course. And I watched them go through a couple speeches, and when I heard these speakers, there was 2 icebreaker speeches. They were terrible. They were so bad I couldn't believe it. I created a list of 100 mistakes I made right in my head, and I wasn't even a Toastmaster yet. When the evaluators stood up and gave their evaluations, I felt like I was going to get sick. Steve, that was a great speech. I loved it. You talked about the stories, and it was funny, and oh, it made me remember when I was a kid. Oh, that was such a great speech. I can't wait till I hear your next one. I'm like, okay, so I'm like, please save me. Next evaluator, save me. Okay, next evaluator comes up. It was a guy. I'm like, yeah, get her, right? Jill, that speech was so great. Oh, it made me cry and it made me smile. Oh, it was so wonderful. And I'm like, oh my God, I thought I was going to pass out. And you know what, right then? There was no way. Toastmasters wasn't for me. So when I was on my way out after the meeting was over, I got one leg right past the edge of the threshold, and I felt a tap on my shoulder. I stopped and turned around. It was one of these Toastmaster guys. Hey, John, what'd you think about our meeting? And I look at him. He's a fellow employee at T-Mobile. And I go, you really want to know what I think? He goes, yeah, absolutely. I go, let's go in the break room. So we walk in the break room. For 5 minutes, I told him every single tiny thing I just told you now. And he asked me a question. He goes, John, did you happen to notice what the objectives were for those 2 icebreaker speeches? I heard this little voice in my head. Uh-oh. Did I miss something? He's like, John, the objectives for the icebreaker speech are simply to stand and speak before a group. And also reflect a little bit about what some of your natural speaking skills may be. And I'm like, that's it? You can go up there and say hi or one word and you meet the objectives. He goes, technically, that's right. And he goes, John, you know what? It's not difficult for evaluators to tear and cut people down to make sure they never try it again. He goes, the real skill is encouraging people, lifting them and elevating them higher to where they feel they'll have another chance again. So as a result of that and my supposed open-mindedness, I created another badge of shame and I pinned it over my heart and wore that for 1 year. I ended up joining Toastmasters. I ended up giving that evaluation to an icebreaker. Jim, that speech was really great. I love those stories. Everybody's clapping. So what I want you to know is, you might do some things that are shameful, but the real shame would be if you didn't look back and ask yourself this question. What was life trying to teach me then? Think about what the lesson was. Carry it with you proudly. Grow and become a better person. Mr. Toastmaster.
Mr. or Madam Timer, whichever you prefer,